Welcome everyone. This is your host, Adam Coleman, and with me today we have Maria Martinez. She is a certified divorce financial analyst and the founder of Ever After Wealth here in Charlotte. Today we're going to talk a little bit more about her role in the divorce process, what divorce team members are vital, and other helpful advice along the way. So Maria, thanks for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Really appreciate the opportunity. Yes,
It's our pleasure.
love being here.
Well, before we begin, tell us a little bit about yourself and what made you decide to go into divorce financial planning.
Sure. So it's a very interesting story, I guess. So for me, when I moved to North Carolina in 2003, I was going through a divorce myself. And so it was very interesting because I knew very little about the country, finances. And then I was going through a divorce and in a new state because I was in New Jersey previously. So that actually somehow took me to work with divorce attorneys. And I worked for divorce attorneys for almost 16 years before I went into the financial side. And I think it was a mix of everything. It was a little bit about my own story. It's like nobody was really there helping me with the financial side. And it's not just coming from another country was very challenging in learning things, but also going through a divorce, which is overwhelming, confusing, scary. It's this big unknown. And then when I started working on the legal side of divorce, I was like, okay, this is good. There's guidance, people have help, and we have support. And as the years went by, 16 years is a long time. I realized there was like a little bit of a disconnect between the clients and the attorneys, and the fact that people didn't understand the finances, and attorneys did the best they could, right? But they are legal experts. And sometimes maybe they didn't take the time to explain, or maybe they didn't even know how to explain something to a client. And I will never forget, I was working in a case with a client, and most of the cases were net worth cases. And this particular moment, there was a time where the spouse said to our client, I would pay you $15,000 a month in our money. And our client freaked out. She started crying. She had a panic attack. And I was sitting there and thinking, and how we always think $15,000 is a lot of money. But there's a reason why this person thinks or feels this way about this particular amount, that she feels that she's going to go poor. Basically, she's not going to have money. She's not going to be able to eat. She's not going to be able to keep a roof over her head. Right. And I realized right at that moment, because in reality, the explanation to her was, well, this is legally when you're entitled, and this is all what you can get. And he's giving you a good deal, and you should take the deal. But at the same time, she didn't understand. And nobody took the time to explain to her why that may be not such a bad deal for her, or what the consequences were with everything else that she was getting, right? It wasn't just the alimony. It was a lot of property that was divided. So that gave me the little insight. I'm like, okay, there's a problem here. People are not understanding the finances. The attorneys are not taking the time, and they don't know. No fault of their own. They went to law school, right?
Correct.
So I decided to look into and dig a little bit of the financial side of things. That's when I found out about the CDFA. And before I went on to the CDFA, I decided I wanted to really go and learn more about the finances. So I left the legal side. I went on to Merrill Lynch. I was a wealth manager for a few years there. I took all of my licenses. I learned everything that had to do with finances and retirement account and investment accounts, et cetera, and all the products, always with the intention to get the CDFA and eventually work with people going through a divorce. So eventually it happened. I got all those years, all those licenses, all that experience. I got the CDFA. And at that time, I was working for a broker as Merrill Lynch. Other brokers really wanted me to go work for them. And I realized that that's not really what I wanted to do. When you're working as a CDFA, my role is basically to do divorce planning, right? It's divorce financial planning. This is what the marital estate is. We're going to do all the research. We're going to investigate, see what the money is. If there's executive compensation, do you have rental? What is that you have? What is your marital estate? And that has to be divided. And then we're going to figure out what is the best way to divide this. So both of the parties, if we're doing mediation, are in a good place. They feel comfortable and they understand what it means and the consequences. There's tax consequences. There's all kinds of consequences of going through a divorce when you sign that agreement or when you get a judgment from the bench, from a judge. So it's kind of important that they understood. And that's when I decided that I did not want to be attached to a broker. I did not want at any point my clients to think that I was providing advice that it was because I wanted to manage their money afterwards, or I had any kind of products that I wanted to sell to them, insurance products or anything like that. I wanted to be divorce financial planning, because in itself is a big deal. Like just the divorce financial planning is a one big unknown beast. And I wanted to just be for them there, whether they were preparing for it, going through it. And sometimes it overlaps a little bit with it right after. And then as they go and work with their financial advisor or wealth manager. So that was basically what I wanted to do. I wanted people to have the information and the knowledge that nobody was really providing for that particular time in their lives, which was a divorce, which is significant. It changes everybody's lives if you go through a divorce. If you ever went through a divorce, or you can, divorce actually changes your life. So I wanted people to be informed before they make decisions that will change your life and define the way their life was going to be in the next chapter.
Oh, that's perfect.
Why? Yeah.
Yeah, and I've obviously had a few people on this show that were a little bit different. They had the same designation, the same CDFA designation, but they get involved either just occasionally when maybe their wealth management clients happen to go through the process, but they're not in it 100%. They're doing it occasionally, but then mostly wealth management. On yours, you don't do any of the wealth management side. You are strictly during the divorce process. You're just helping to separate the assets out, create game plans financially, and obviously, like you said, educate them on the financial planning aspect of it so that they're comfortable with it. So you don't get involved with them after the divorce is finalized at all then. So your process is just during the divorce, correct?
It's just during the divorce. I do work, like if there's a case where there's no court, there's no litigation, there is a mediation or collaborative cases or things of that nature, I do review their documents, because as you know, the financial world is highly regulated and they all have their own little rules, how money is supposed to be divided, how we're going to get the money from the IRA or things of that nature. So I usually get involved a little bit longer so I can review those documents to make sure that on the financial side, they actually will accomplish the goal, whichever was the way that they were supposed to be divided, whatever assets we're talking about. So I do a little bit longer, and I work very closely with a few financial advisors, because in most cases, my clients, if they have an advisor, more likely one of the spouses is going to go to that financial advisor, right? It's going to continue that relationship. It's very rare that both of them are going to stay with the same financial advisor. Right. So I do connect them. And sometimes I connect them before we even sign any documents, because I like for them to know my clients, to know where they're coming from, what assets will come their way, so they can start creating a plan for them. My goal is that they're comfortable with what is happening with the divorce, but I want to make sure that they are protected. And when they start the next chapter, someone is looking for them, because I can give them all the information in the world, but they're still not going to be a wealth manager or a financial advisor. They need the help. So I connect them and send them along with their advisor. And yeah, that's usually the end of it. I do get clients that keep calling me and asking me questions. I was a wealth manager. I obviously don't give them any type of advice in that nature, but they do like to exchange ideas with me and get my input. So that's been actually great that clients do come back and ask me questions or tell me what's going on, right? And tell me how things are going. But yes, my work is done the moment that they sign that agreement or the divorce is finalized.
Where do you see the advantages of having somebody like you where it's strictly divorce planning, as opposed to somebody that might even be, best case, a CDFA, but also primarily more of a wealth manager? Like what pros and cons do you see from that?
So the only thing that I could say is, this is very personal. I did not want a conflict of interest, or I didn't want people to think there's a conflict of interest. So if you're my client and I'm telling you, you should really get half of this IRA or the other IRA or the 401k or whatever property, it's because it's best for you. It's not because at the end of the day, I'm going to be managing this. And there may be this thought behind, and not because I will be doing anything wrong, not that because the other advisors are doing anything wrong. It's just because it could look as a conflict. And I wanted to avoid that conflict. There's a lot of things that can happen anyway while you're going through a divorce. Like you cannot purchase life insurance while you're going through a divorce. You can't really invest money in any different ways. Actually, in reality, the money in any account should be just stopped. Nothing should happen with that money while you're going through the process until there is a resolution as to who's getting that asset or how the asset is going to be divided. So I personally wanted to do it that way. The advantage I feel is because I'm an expert. All I do is this. This is what I breathe and look and eat. This is my life. My life is all about divorce financial planning. And this is all I do. I don't get distracted with other things because it's really what I'm doing. I don't have to catch the market. I don't have to look at other clients and see how their investments are doing or putting out fires for other clients that are going through something different. When you're managing assets is a very complicated job. It's not easy to do. And it's great that there's people that actually do it, like CFPs, that they do financial planning for the rest of your life. That is significant and it's very important. I almost feel like we are like doctors. We all have their own expertise. CFPs are looking long-term goals and they're looking into investments. What's going to happen when you retire? How are we going to invest this money? CPAs are looking at today. How are we going to save money in taxes? They don't look at the next year. They look at this year. How are we going to take all the advantages and we're going to save you money doing taxes? Well, CDFAs, we work today while you're going through this divorce. How are we going to get the best possible agreement for you and resolutions so you are in a good position to move forward and work with the other experts that will take the next level.
Right. No, that's perfect. I think a lot of people don't realize that. Maybe they think they've done enough to have a financial advisor involved. They are already working with a wealth manager. And I guess even best case, if they have the designation, they think that they're covered. But I think a lot of people need to realize that just having the designation doesn't mean that you're in it 100%. So you're just not dealing with it. Like you said, a regular CFP is great, more as a general practitioner, but not the specialization that it's going to take to go through this process to handle that. And like you said, there's less conflict of interest to deal with when you're going through it because you're not having to try to manage the money afterwards or charge them fees afterwards. It's strictly just for the divorce. So
yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Well, perfect. Well, no, and you mentioned this a little bit, but prior to becoming a financial advisor, you were obviously a divorce paralegal. How does that experience kind of come into play with your current divorce financial planning work?
Well, I will tell you this, Adam, I don't think I could do the work the way I do it and give my clients the actual support I can without that experience. Divorce is complicated. The legal portion of divorce is so complicated. There's all kinds of rules and there's the process, how it works with the law. And it's just very hard. I remember studying for my CDFA, right? And the CDFA is a national certification. I have clients in many states and we can help anyone. But I remember some of the concepts that we had to learn, they were very different from North Carolina. And I would be thinking, oh no, if my client was in North Carolina, this wouldn't work like this. Or if my client was in South Carolina, that's not going to work like this. And it was kind of interesting because then I realized that we have, as financial advisors in general, we know how the financial world works, right? And we have these ideas of how things should go. Well, in reality, the law has their own ideas about how the finances work when you're going through a divorce, and you have to combine the two. And I think it's very hard sometimes to do because when I am working with a client and my financial brain is telling me, well, this should not be like this, but I know because I work on the legal side of divorce that this is how it's going to work. If clients end up going to court, I know more likely how will happen and how things will work. So I think my experience on the legal side, it really helps me to manage my clients in a different way because again, you Google something and it's this way and it should be this way, but yeah, it's really not quite that way because you have laws. You're governed by the law as you're going through a divorce. Having a CDFA is great because then you understand the consequences financially of whatever decision you make, and we can do tracing and we can do calculations and things of that nature. But in reality, the law is the law and you just have to abide by it. So it's kind of interesting because I kind of know what the attorney would do. Like I can anticipate, it's been 16 years. I know how they think. I know how they want to approach a case. And I usually, when I'm preparing a report, I'm thinking, well, the attorney's strategy is probably going to be this or that, right? And I'm pretty on the ball with it. When I'm at a mediation with the attorney, mediator, the other side, like I understand their lingo, I understand what they're saying, and I understand their own limitations. That helps me help my clients better. Again, I don't know how could I do it without it. I am very grateful that I have that expertise, because I know it's helping me incredibly. And also my relationships, right? I work with a lot of attorneys and they know what I can do. So it's interesting. I can talk to them. I understand them. I go to their yearly meeting where we learn about the laws, and that helped me too with my clients. I don't give legal advice. I can't tell them what to do from a legal perspective, but it helps me when I prepare a report, when I'm trying to take them one way or another. It helps me because I know what the end result will be whenever they go to court or things of that nature. I know what the attorneys need in order to prepare to go to court. And that actually saves my clients money because I am doing all that work, but I know exactly what the attorney needs. And I know they're not going to have to repeat the work I do because I know exactly what they need. So it is a great asset. Again, I don't think I could do it this well or this way without that experience in me.
It's unique. You don't see a lot of people that obviously have the legal and the financial piece nailed down. So I could see where it would be a huge help for sure. We've spoken about obviously a couple of the key members being the attorney and then also the financial side with the CDFA. What other key members do you see on the divorce team that you would see as those successful vital members for each person?
Okay, so I think there's this different components. Obviously, there's the three components when it comes to divorce. It's the legal component, the financial component, and the emotional component. You don't have one without the other. No matter how amicable or anything, you're going through a divorce, there's emotions, there's finances, and there's the legal side of things. Obviously, an attorney or a mediator on the legal side. On the emotional side, a therapist, a coach, parenting coach. I think those are very, very important, especially if there's a high conflict cases. People really have a problem communicating a lot of the times. And on top of that, you put the emotions of divorce, nobody communicates well. So I think those are very important. Even if you're going through a mediation process, a coach has been fantastic when my clients work with a coach, because I give them the financial concept. They go talk to the coach and they kind of understand, they can cover their emotions, they can control a little bit, they can see past all this fog they are through. And then on the financial side, though, the CDFA, I think is a key component. I think no one, if there's a significant marital state that has a financial component, they should not do this without a CDFA. But we don't do this alone. I think there's a lot of experts out there, like what I was saying, we all have our own expertise. And someone, for example, like you, an expert that is a lender, but is an expert in divorce, it has been so important for my clients because you're selling a house or you're buying a house or someone has to refinance a house or there's rental properties that have to be divided one way or another and they're getting two or three and the other one. And on the lending side, there's so many options and opportunities, and there is no way I could do that for my clients. Or working with someone like you, it really helps me because I'm like, okay, please tell me, what do we need? What does my client need? If she's going to not keep the house, what does she need in order to buy a house? Because she needs a home. And obviously I know they can do it tomorrow, but let's say in 6 months, she wants to buy a house. What can you do? What can she do? How do we prepare for this? Which language do we need in the agreement? Because I know now that because I've been working with experts like you, I know that there's a specific language in the separation agreement, which I didn't know because lending is not what I do.
Right.
So I think that is very important. The lending portion, because there's going to be refinancing or buying a home. Or even if they're selling a home and not refinancing, there's going to be a buying a home potentially or two.
Right.
So it really depends. And with that goes also the real estate experts. I forgot their designation, but I know they're divorce experts too. And I think that is important because they understand the emotions too, like we all do. We work in this realm. We are experts in our own field, but we understand people are going through emotions. And if we all work together as a team, if I can have a real estate understanding what they can find for my client, because the lender person said this is what they could afford with these parameters. So then we all work back to the attorney. But this is the parameters we did in this agreement. So my client can actually get approved for this loan. So the real estate agent can find them this home that they need. And then we can all make it work for our client and actually makes it cost efficient as well, because there's a cost involved with everything that we do, obviously. And if we let the experts do their thing, we save money at the end of the day. Our clients are saving money. And I think that when there's high stakes, when there's high net worth clients that are going through a divorce, we need each and every expert the ones I mentioned, I think, as the main ones. We do get CPAs, obviously, and
Mhm.
forensic accountants sometimes. As a CDFA, I could do tracing, but I'm very limited of what I can do. I'm not a business valuator. Some CDFAs do that, and they get the qualification. I haven't done that, but so those are different experts in the finances. We all need them because depending on the case and the needs of the case. But I would say the real estate and the lender, I mean, it's a no-brainer because a house is the biggest part usually of a marital estate, and they can divide the house in two. So someone is keeping the
Right.
house, and the other person needs a home, or they're selling the home and both of them need a home. So then there's also about how we're going to go about doing this and make sure everyone qualifies while you're going through a divorce, which shakes your finances, right?
What sort of advice would you give for somebody starting off? Like, are there certain key members of the divorce team that you suggest reaching out to first? Or do you typically see them just going to the attorney first and then them separating them out into different team members?
So this is funny because I have a lot of attorneys in my life, and my best friends are attorneys. And my message to anyone that is starting the process or considering the process is not to call the attorney, is to call a CDFA. And I laugh because they laugh, and I really think that the CDFA should get involved first if there's a high net worth. Of course, we're talking about if this is just a normal situation, there's no domestic violence, there's no fear or something. I mean,
Right.
sometimes you need the attorney, you need to go to the attorney first, obviously. But I'm talking those cases where there's a feeling that divorce is coming. There is this, maybe I want to get a divorce, but I don't know how the finances would look like. So I feel like the CDFA will actually help them get ready, because in reality, the attorney, it's very little they can do until they have documents and statements and they can get a picture of what the marital state is. Obviously, you go to an attorney, they will tell you where your rights are legally, and they're going to tell you more likely you get 50 of everything sometimes. And that creates problems sometimes for my clients when they come to me after the attorney said, no, I'm getting cut 50 of the house and I'm getting 50 of this account. And I said, okay, we can cut the house in half.
Right.
So there has to be some kind of, we need to move this marital estate and create a division where you get potentially half of the marital estate, but you're not getting half of the house per se. And that is very hard because, again, you're going with the emotions, you're going through a divorce, you're scared, you're overwhelmed, and you don't know what that means. But the attorney told me. So it's very hard for them to kind of like go back, and for me to bring them back, look at the numbers and understand why I'm saying what I'm saying. So at the other end, it's like I can prepare them. I can tell them exactly which documents to get. I can prepare my report so they know what the marital estate is entitled, debt, assets, compensation, executive compensation. We're living in a world where everybody's getting stocks and options and things of that nature. Well, attorneys can make calculations, and I have conversations with attorneys all the time about options. Options have no value, and actually they do. I understand you can't really do anything with the options until the time comes, but they have a present value you should use in your division, and that is something the attorneys don't know, and I can educate them as much as I can educate my clients. But if I get all of that information ahead of time and then they go to an attorney, it's much simpler, it's cost efficient, and you don't have an attorney that is no financial expert trying to create financial reports. It takes double the time, and really they may miss something, not because you're not doing a good job, it's just because they're not the experts, they are the legal experts. So my thought is get a coach or a therapist if emotions are very important, and go to a CDFA. I would never allow anyone to go through a divorce without an attorney. Even if you go to a mediator, I do financial mediation for couples a lot, and they go to mediators to draft the documents. I always tell them, go to an attorney. You need your attorney to review your agreement, because on the legal side of things, you have to be protected as well. So my advice is find a CDFA and go to them first. And in my case, I'm able to refer them to attorneys depending on their needs, just because I have the knowledge and I know the attorneys, and I know I can see if something is going to litigation or they need an attorney that is more towards the custody, because I realize the money is not really the big issue, but they're fighting over the children. Okay, well, this is a different type of situation you're going to run into. But my advice is contact a CDFA. It's going to help you get the finances organized. Contact a coach so you can get your emotions under control. And from there, you're going to go to your attorney or your mediator. But again, CDFA confers. We can also bring all of the other experts in the financial side that we need, a lender,
Right.
real estate agent, or a CPA, or a business valuation. We can bring them all on board. But if we handle the finances, everything goes a little smoother, if you would, during the process. That is complicated enough.
What are your thoughts on the different types of divorce? So you've got collaborative, mediation, litigation. Do you get involved in educating the clients about the different options if you are one of the first people that gets included to where they're trying to figure out which attorney they want to go through?
Yes, because I can tell. They usually tell me, oh no, when I tell him I'm going to leave, it's going to be a problem. Or is the husband that left and they're like, well, I left. I don't know what I want to do, but she's going after me and she was my money. Well, I think it depends a little bit. When I talk to them, I can get an idea of what they need. There's a lot of attorneys that are neutral, if you will. They're not collaborative because you had to be certified, right?
Right.
But there's attorneys that could do mediation or litigation if they need to, right? And sometimes you don't need like this bulldog litigator. You just need an attorney that knows to do litigation. But I do get involved in all of those. My advice to my clients is if you can avoid going to court, please avoid it. And I'm not saying sign anything they put in front of you and make a bad decision for you or just say yes to everything. I am saying if you could avoid it and you can find a compromise settlement that puts you in a good position to move forward and you can avoid going through the litigation route, I'll say avoid it. I think the system is not really working the way it should. Judges are trying their best, but they just can't. They don't have the time. You're sitting in front of a judge for 2 hours and they have to decide whatever happened in your life the last 15 years. They don't have the time. They're not going to hear you. They can't. And then at the same time is that we run into this issue that judges are not experts either. They know the law, but then you have the finances. So you got to bring your experts to explain to the judge and then wait for the judge to decide with the expert or not, because just because you're an expert doesn't mean the judge will rule with you, right? There's all kinds of things and it's very costly. People fight. It really, when you have to go to litigation, there's no way that you can settle, but if you can avoid it, I'll say avoid litigation. I've worked with cases for litigation. I've done it when I work on the legal side. I understand the whole process, but because of that reason, I'll say try to avoid it. Mediation is great. I've done plenty of mediations. I've done mediations when there's a mediator and all I do is the financial mediation with my clients. And then they go back to the mediator to finalize any other aspects like custody, things of that nature, because I don't do that. Or with attorneys. So there's attorneys, there's a mediator, everybody is there. There's a back and forth with the mediator, and I'm there just plugging in numbers and helping figure out what kind of counter offer, how we can make it work, how we are going to respond to their offer. And again, make sure that is a settlement that makes sense for my client and is fair. Collaborative is great. I think if everyone is in the right mindset, collaborative can work. And it works. The only times that I'm really wary about collaborative is because you have each party with an attorney, right? And you have a financial neutral usually, okay? Well, the financial neutral is a financial neutral. Can help the one party. If the one party that is not sure whether one settlement offer is good for them, they can help them. They can give them that advice because they're being neutral, right? There's like, okay, we analyze the marital state. We show you where the money is. We do tracing. We do evaluations. Okay, here it is. This is it. This is how we can make it work and divide it. But that's it. There's not a one-on-one conversation with the one party saying, okay, this may not be the best for you because, I don't know, you don't have retirement account. Maybe you need more retirement account because you're not going to be able to catch up and, you don't have the job. I don't know, things of that nature. I do believe that sometimes the parties need their own specific CDFA, the same way they have an attorney, because they have an attorney that is there. Even though we're trying to work together as a team, the attorney is there to make sure their rights are protected, right? And make sure that it is happening according to what the law says and protecting their clients. I think CDFA should be part of that as well. Working with an individual client, not to question any of the findings a financial neutral may have made in the case. It's just about working with what the neutral did and advise the client. I have a lot of clients that came to me when they're going through collaborative and they don't understand because there's no one really working with them the financial side, right? The attorney is on the legal side. So I think collaborative could work. I think it works, but everyone has to be on the same path. Everybody has to be the same frame of mind to make it work. And everyone should have access to enough information and enough of the experts. They need their own experts as well. And I think that is something that may not be taken into consideration sometimes in the collaborative. Most attorneys do, but a lot of them don't. And that's the only thing that makes me worry sometimes, because you want people to settle. I want people to settle. I don't want people to go to court, but I want people to have the right information as well, and understanding their consequences when they make a decision, because these decisions are significant and important, and they will affect them for the rest of their life, believe it or not. And they should have their experts. I do believe that. But again, I work with all kinds of divorce, and I don't think I have a favorite, but I will tell you, my least favorite is litigation. Don't go to court. Yeah.
Do you ever get involved in the collaborative process not as the financial neutral? Does anybody bring you in as their financial guide per se, but then there's also a financial neutral in the picture?
Very rarely, and that's where the problem comes. And it's been interesting. I had a lot of conversation with attorneys in the area too, because I know them, and I'm like, they need an expert. The neutral is a neutral. It can offer advice in the same way that there's an attorney working for them and getting them their legal advice. They need financial advice. So I usually come along after, when the collaborative process doesn't work, because the client doesn't understand, and they can work with the same attorney. So everything starts all over. Maybe not all over, because we still have all the financials and things. So it's easier for me to work through that. But I'm thinking, okay, maybe if this person had me before and I could explain to them the situation or what it meant, maybe, because they were so open to resolving it, maybe they will have resolved it. But it's too late. So no, I have worked as a neutral, but I haven't worked while the collaborative process is going as an expert. I think that is a need. I think that's something that people should consider.
Perfect. Well, no, this has been really helpful. I really appreciate you taking the time. If anybody would like to learn more about you and any of the services that you offer, what's the best place for them to track you down?
I think the best place is my website, is everafterwealth.com. You can send me a message directly from there. You can schedule a meeting. If you are a person that is considering separation or going through the process, you can go into my website and schedule a call with me. It's confidential. And it's complimentary. I'll talk to you for a few minutes to figure out whether we're a good fit, if I could help you. And also, if you're an expert, actually, you can go to my website and schedule a meeting with me too, because I'm always connecting with experts, because I want my clients to have any experts they need. I want to make sure to have resources for them. You can email me directly at Maria, Maria, at everafterwealth.com.
Perfect. Well, I really appreciate it, Maria. Thank you for taking the time.
Thank you for having me. Yes, this has been great.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, you're very welcome.